Looks like the gun is loaded, the trigger has been pulled. Insidious Chill's discard effects are on the table here. That's the game, folks.
Andrew, of course, is going to activate creepers.
Green light. Come on in. Sonata Arcanics.
Oh, here we go. Sonata. Are we pitching into it? Looks like we are.
We are. And now Andrew just has to go, all right.
All right, the moment of truth. We've got attack, attack, non-attack, non-attack. Wow.
Oh, God.
Oh. If Porter's got the zero go again in hand, I think this is game. And it's a rabble.
It's a ravenous rabble.
Good evening, fight fans. It is the end of the week, which means it's time to sit down, pop a drink, and get ready for some Friday night fights. I'm Patrick Shaw from the Combat Chain. Calling the action tonight with me is Andy Modell. Andy, say hello.
Hey everybody, how you doing? And how are you, Pat?
I'm doing fantastic. It is the new year over here, but I'm still clearly celebrating some Christmas leftover from the holiday spirit. But I'm not only excited for the Christmas season, I am excited for tonight's action, because the main event tonight is a rematch that you won't find anywhere else, only here on FTC, only possible here on FTC. It is Dan Rutkowski versus Michael Hamilton, Phi versus Icelander. That is happening later tonight. Andy, what do you think about getting the rematch of the century here on FTC?
Yeah, well, I know a lot of people were thinking that we might be seeing this over in the finals of the World Championship, but Chris denied that from happening, so you're all going to get to see it right now. Fun fact, at US Nationals, Dan actually beat Michael Hamilton in the Swiss rounds for then Michael Hamilton to win in the finals. So you could say this is a game 3, deciding who's the real winner of the rivalry.
Stakes are even higher than I originally thought. This is a rubber match. That is insane. But that is the main event of a 3-fight card here tonight. We are opening with Kaiser Wong versus Galaxy, weighing one of 2 Blue Pitch versus Team Gold matches. And of course, before we get to the action here, we want to remind you that this stream is brought to you by Fab Foundry. If you go on to fabfoundry.co and type in the code TEAMCUP10 when you're buying singles, now throughout the rest of the tournament, you will save 10% off of your singles purchase, and that discount will go towards the prize support and running and funding of the tournament that you see here. Speaking of prize support for the Fab Cup, we have a little taste of some of the prize support for the winners of the Fab Team Cup. Now, we talked about on one of our streams earlier that there's going to be some box support, the booster box support, but there was talk about a playmat. We have the very first look at the FTC Championship playmat here tonight, and I believe the production truck is going to throw that up on the screen right now.
Yeah, very cool playmat over here.
That is a tasty playmat. I love playmats. I wish my team did a little better so that I could get one, but it is entirely my fault that we did not. But that is the playmat that the winners will be getting, and that is custom made by Fab Foundry, and the winners will be getting that. But in order to get there, they got to get through the semifinals tonight. So we do have some semifinal matchups. Like we said, there was a Blue Pitch versus Team Gold in the top 4, as well as Indy Arsenal versus the Runaways. All 4 teams, heavy hitters, featuring some of the best players in the world, and they're battling it out to see who can go to that championship game next week here. So Andy, I think we're ready to go here. So we'll fire off the first match, and it is Kaiser Wong versus Galaxy Inc. Kaiser is going to be on Dorinthia, and Galaxy is going to be on Dromai.
Yeah, Dorinthia and Dromai, this is one of those matchups where when you're talking about the heroes, a lot of people say, oh, Dorinthia can get as many counters as she wants against Dromai because of the dragons. And Dromai, on the other hand, is saying, oh, I have to play a bit differently so that I can still present the pressure without allowing Dorinthia the chance to build up those counters. So we'll really have to see how Kaiser and Galaxy play up this match and how things end up going.
Absolutely. Dromai does represent a very unique challenge for its opponents where you have to make the decision on whether or not you're going to take tempo and damage your opponent or clear their board state. And every turn it seems to be more and more of a challenge. And we see Galaxy starting off turn 0, going first with a passing Mirage, the eliminating Phantasm Aura, and it looks like an activation of
No,
the furnace, I believe. I saw an
unless
Ash.
you pay a red card.
Yes.
I think he was just putting his counters face down on the
I
board.
think
so
I was
that he'll
right
have
there
them when
with
he
him
needs
to
them.
attempt the furnace activation. Saw the Ash flip over. Now we see
Yeah.
Dorinthia responding on their turn, pitching the yellow, and Dawnblading taking out the passing Mirage. Very quick.
Yeah, this is interesting because normally Dorinthia, you think about the Dawnblade. You think about her attacking with the weapon, pumping it up either with non-attack actions or with reactions. So if all you're doing is that, then the passing Mirage isn't as big a deal because you're not running those poppers, the 6 power attackers. However, knocking this out, it makes sense if you want to risk, if you want to use your turn, if you're worried about potentially wanting to use a popper later on. So I think this move right at the beginning of the game is an indication as to how this Dorinthia deck is going to perform.
For sure, and there's always talk about how many poppers you might need, right? Into Dromai. Dorinthia, not historically known to carry a ton of them, so we'll see if those attack actions poke their head out anytime here, and watch this dance continue. We do see Galaxy back on their turn. They have a 5-card hand, full life. Dawnblade only attack that passing Mirage, had the Spectre, so ended the turn right there. We'll see what Dromai has to offer.
Yeah, well, we're waiting for it's usually an indication. Not yeah, looks like they're really taking their time.
Deep
though.
in the tank, we like to say here, making untimed rounds, especially this late in the year. They have the choice to make make the time to make the decisions that they want here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and it looks like there might be some a little choppy on their end as it is.
Yeah, this could be the recording that we have, or our production could be having a bit of trouble over here. Yeah. Yeah, our producer's just letting us know that their computer's lagging a little bit. Hopefully, we'll be able to get that under control really fast. John, thanks for letting us know audio's cutting out. Everything is going through our producer, so hopefully they'll be able to resolve that really soon.
And you guys can't see him, but we can see the sweat dripping down his brow as the Dromai player plays a Necria. Looks like a Necria in front of a
Dawnblade, actually.
Oh, they're blocking. Yes, they are.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened with that turn, if they just passed or if something else happened. But it looks like we are back on the Dorinthia side of things, attacking with Dawnblade, pitching the Twinning Blade, a double block from Dromai, with 2 pretty interesting dragons. Thamai, not usually one that's super threatening into Dorinthia, so it makes sense to block with that. Necria, usually one that you might want to get out earlier, but if he's trying to play in a more defensive strategy, maybe wait to get some weapons, maybe he's just trying to fatigue the Dorinthia. That's another strategy, because we see that he just seemed to end his turn right away.
He has, and it does seem like, I don't know if that's a glitch or not either, but there does seem to be that extra card by the Arsenal. Not quite sure what's happening there, but it did look like Dromai ended the turn, and Dorinthia started with looks like a Spoils, a Dawnblade, and is coming in with a reaction with the red Overpower. We haven't seen the pitch yet, but presumably that's a blue card.
Yeah, Ian over in the comment section mentioning that the Dorinthia may not have any playables due to 0 Ash, so that could be a reason for them ending their turn. They did have the option of using their Mage Master's boots to pitch a red card if they wanted, but keeping those around, choosing to be a bit more defensive early on seems to be the way that things are going for Galaxy right now. Looks like between use of Quell and use of that defense reaction, that Overpower may not actually be overpowering the blocking happening this turn.
That is correct, and I'm beginning to think that there is a card under that Twinning Blade that represented the initial resources on the pitch. I was expecting that card floating to be that blue pitch, but we see that in Arsenal now. Dromai with the Ash, so looks like they'll be able to conduct some game actions. But I see the Dawnblade again. It looks like another pass, and we see the Dawnblade, and I believe that is Puncture, new reaction from Dynasty, +3, and I believe that is Piercing on it as well.
Yeah, Piercing definitely one of those tools that the Warrior players have that can really be more effective, especially into more frigid decks that might want to use equipment to block. It says, if I'm using Piercing, hey, that equipment, you might have just wasted it if it's a reaction. Looks like Galaxy decided to let that through, and we are seeing some of this. I believe Ironsong Pride is the name of the card on the board now, so tokens starting to show up on that Dawnblade.
Yep, Ironsong Pride is an instant, so even without the action point or the go again, was able to drop in that aura, gain the counter on the Dawnblade regardless, and that will stay on the board, and that counter is now there without having to have swung and hit twice.
Yeah, and it looks like over here we're still getting a little bit of lag, but okay, I'm told from production that this is actually an issue with the quality of the recording, not so much the production team. We did see a Kyloria show up and then get swept over to the side. Not sure if that was played, and then he's fetching a token or something. Pat, what do you think we got right now? Okay, yeah.
He still might be in the process of getting the dragon out of the invoke here.
On TTS, I think that's usually like a button click over the invoke.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. Given very little context, not quite sure what happened there. Oh,
yeah.
duh.
With the Command and Conquer.
Yeah, we missed the Command and Conquer happening there. So Phantasm pops the Kyloria to clean it up real quick, and then we see the Dawnblade coming in now for 4, pitching a Singing Steel Blade, floating 1. Of course, Dorinthia with that kind of that gamble casino math. The 2 cards in hand, 1 in arsenal, and a resource floating. The breakpoint attack coming in. Will they try to stop this? Will they have an opportunity to trigger reprise?
Yeah, I'm no expert on Dorinthia playing myself, but seeing the pitch of the Singing Steel Blade at a time where you might want to keep Ironsong Pride out made me think he might have some more going on. But it looks like that was a full block over, no life lost for Galaxy, who is coming in now on his turn with one of those big Dominias, one of the legendary dragons.
It is still not entirely sure. Okay, we did see the 4 block come with the, it looks like with the equipment, the crown and the furnace. I think that kind of got chopped up a little bit on the lag. Dominia coming in, looks like a 3-card block.
That's the ability. Revealing
he's exposing it. Yep.
Yeah, banishing a card from the Dorinthia player's hand.
Yeah, Dromai not so much my bag. More of a Dorinthia player than a Dromai player. But we see Dominia had to be on the board. We see a Glistening Blade now coming in, and the Dawnblade attacking Dominia.
Yeah, this is where people say that Dorinthia has a significant advantage into Dromai as opposed to into other heroes. With Dromai having all these allies, the rules say that you can attack an ally, and the player cannot defend attacks on that ally. So if you're trying to keep counters on Dawnblade or get hits to keep getting counters onto Dawnblade, being able to swing at a dragon, if you can give it go again, you can swing at another dragon or at the player, and there's very difficult ways to prevent that Dawnblade from getting out of hand counters-wise. Speaking of things that get out of hand, though, we have Tomotai, probably my favorite of the legendary dragons. The ability to destroy equipment can be so clutch against certain heroes, especially.
Luckily for Dorinthia, running the Tunic instead of the Courage of Bladehold, still, would hurt to lose, but not as painful as as a Courage would be to lose that and lose that ability for the free swings.
Yeah, though
we see the Tunic go. He did take the Tunic.
Hey, that's a resource every 3 turns. Very powerful, and it does add up over the course of the game. So I probably would have made the same decision. Also, Tomotai coming in for, I believe, 5 damage in attack. So it's still another threat coming in there. These legendary dragons, they just add up.
Yep, Dorinthia with their work cut out for them. We'll see if they take the hit. Oh, looks like they're thinking. Looks like they're gonna block with Crown.
Yeah, choosing to get rid of that Arsenal card. Oop. And recording.
Oh, and that's that's it. Looks like they rewound the game state.
Yeah, for the record, this recording, I believe, was provided to us from the Team Blue Pitch. So hopefully they're figuring out how to make sure that everything gets smooth. We do have another one coming from them later on. But yeah, the damage coming in from Tomotai, Dorinthia player playing hit and run, going to be giving Dawnblade go again. And just going into that Tomotai, knocking it out with the ability, triggering Dorinthia's, since it was hitting that dragon, they can now attack again into Dromai or into Tomotai, since it looks like that wasn't enough damage to make it lethal. 2 hits into Tomotai, kills the dragon, counter on Dawnblade. I would say a fairly effective turn for the Dorinthia player. The more counters Dawnblade has, the harder it is for the opponent to handle it.
Absolutely, and as long as Dromai's board is staying clear, and you can kind of get rid of them one at a time like that while maintaining those counters on Dawnblade, I think it's absolutely the right move. And those legendary dragons, you really can't afford to keep them on the board anyways. So Dorinthia uniquely equipped to be able to handle them without being as punished as some other heroes. And we do say you're a Rake the Embers followed by a Yanduri here, and we'll probably see 4 attacks coming now.
Yeah, though.
And a Nourishing Emptiness popping the Yanduri.
Yeah, an effective play on the Dorinthia's side. Yanduri can be annoying to get rid of if you're not popping it with the endurance counter and all. Looks like with all these little dragons, it's basically giving Kaiser the opportunity to choose his fate. Does he want to use Dawnblade to kill dragons, get counters? Is that drawing cards on the on-hit from singing Steelblade? Or not singing.
Steelblade Supremacy. Yeah, we see the blue pitch, right? The Spoils of War, Steelblade Supremacy, 2 counters on the Dawnblade. So each of those are getting +2. So 3, 5, 7, 9. They did use that to take out an Ashwing, but he did get the card draw and the go again. Now coming at, looks like coming at Galaxy to the face this time. Looking at 6, 8, I believe. Still has 2 resources floating, still has a card in hand, activated the Brave Forge Bracers on the second hit. So coming in, I believe that is 9 attack total coming in.
Yeah, definitely a big swing. This is the sort of situation where the Dromai player has to think, do I give up my whole hand, get rid of those counters, hoping that they don't have an attack reaction? Or do I strategically determine how much damage I'm willing to take so I can strike back with hopefully giving minimal advantage to the Dorinthia player? Blocking with any cards of hand, though, if that is an attack reaction in hand, allowing Reprise to activate. So looks like we do get that puncture coming through.
That is a puncture, so he does get a counter and the card draw enabled to Arsenal. Dromai really loving their hand, having the Kyloria come out. I guess that's what they were saving for. I know Kyloria is good. Like I said, I'm not a Dromai player. I don't know if Kyloria is 10 a counter and a card good, but we'll see how this pans out for Dromai.
Yeah, after a certain point, though, you have to think, is it even possible to block that Dawnblade fully? And then damage versus being able to strike back is just a value proposition. Kyloria could have blocked for 3 on the invocation. At least now it's attacking for 4. Maybe worth keeping that around. The pitch card, it's a blue, so it might be able to pitch for one of the arsenal or in-hand cards that Galaxy has over there. Lots of considerations for sure, and these players making it over to the semifinals, they know what they're doing far better than we do sitting over here in the commentary box.
One of my favorite hobbies is, in fact, backseat driving. Better players than me. But for sure, right? Like one of the things you got to look at when you're facing Dorinthia, how many cards do they have in their hand, and how much damage are they actually willing or able to deal? Right there with usually if you're anticipating reactions, you're looking at usually 1 resource and plus 3 damage, right, per potential reaction. So it still would have been. It would have been tough to overcome, to your point there, right? If you're not going to be able to get all of it, then take what take your licking and come back with a Kyloria and see if they can stop you there.
Oh yeah, we have an interesting comment over from YouTube comments. Spoils of War, when that hit, should have generated 2 copper tokens. Those copper tokens then would have had to have been the target of Kyloria's ability if Kyloria hits. With Kyloria, it steals an item, and only if it can't steal an item do you get to draw a card. Looks like the missed trigger was considered beneficial because they thought, oh, I'm not, copper tokens can only be good. But in this case, if there was a judge watching, we might have had a different result.
Chat coming in clutch, and we see the glistening for 6. Glistening Steel Blade, Dawnblade for 6, taking out the Kyloria, getting the counter. I believe in the process should be up to 4. And I believe it is attacking. Maybe not getting the counter. I believe it is the counter coming in on hit for a hero to gain that counter. Perhaps that might be what's happening there. And then the 6 coming into Dromai looks like to the face, following up.
Yeah, Glistening Steel Blade. When Dawnblade hits a hero this turn, put a counter on it, so you don't get the counter for hitting a dragon over there. Different from the ability on Dawnblade itself that only cares about hits.
So we do see there's a card in Arsenal, no resource floating, right? Tunic's out, so unless they have an Iron Song response, right, they pretty much can be sure that they can successfully block that out and playing the odds there. But we do see it's a 3 block and the sink below for 7. So the counters stay on Dawnblade, but they do not gain one.
Yeah, it did hit the dragon there, so that fulfills the requirement to keep the counters on, though nothing hitting Galaxy directly. Looks like
Kaiser with three counters on the Dawnblade in pretty commanding position here, but a passing Mirage by Dromai, kind of hard to negotiate now because you will lose the counters if you just take out the aura with the Dawnblade now. But Spoils of War, blue pitch coming in, floating 1 +2. That is 6, 7, 8 with go again. We see the Braveforge Bracers activation, another blue pitch, and Dawnblade coming in for 7 this time. Dromai looking at their cards, seeing what they can do here.
Yeah, and this is exactly what people say happens when Dorinthia goes into Dromai. They have the opportunity to get the counters, and they often have the opportunity to keep the counters. We saw, the Dromai player play their Rake the Embers, get those little Aether Ash Wings. Normally, you see Aether Ash Wings, and you think, oh, each one of those represents some damage. They're going to attack with a bunch of them in succession. The only time we really saw those coming in for attack so far, there was an Aether Ash Wing, and then the Yenderai was popped, so we didn't see much after that. Over here, we have a block and a defense reaction with the Fate Foreseen.
Yeah, The 2 resources and 2 cards does mean that there's potential for +6. We'll see what, and we see the little rewind once more from them. It does look like they had a bit of a lag issue on their own here. They were trying to restore here, but we do see 7 coming in, and there's the Iron Song response. So no resources necessary. The Sink Below in response. 8 + 3 is 11. 6, 9, 4, 13 faces 11. The Out for Blood coming out from Arsenal getting the +3, and that should be 12 facing 11.
Yeah, when you see 2 defense reactions coming out against a Dorinthia, you really hope you're going to actually block that attack. This must have been a devastating turn, morale-wise at least, for the Dromai player here. Coming in now with a dust up on their own turn.
Yep, and Dorinthia letting that go, taking I believe was that a blue one? It might have been a red one for 4. I think they were at 28. We do say, is that a Nature's Path Pilgrimage?
Yeah,
it is a pilgrimage card.
Not the most popular card from what I've seen.
I think he took it back, though. It is back in his hand. There's some cursor conversation taking place. We see the blue pitch, the Dawnblade, a Glint the Quicksilver. I believe the Dawnblade was used to take out the Ashwing. Still has go again. 1 resource floating Dawnblade for 4. It looks like a Braveforge Bracers. There's a lot of moving parts happening.
Yeah, these players, the combination of them playing very quickly just sometimes makes it a bit difficult for us to catch on, especially when there is the occasional lag spike. Looks like
pace is frenetic AF here.
Yeah, looks like we are seeing that Toma Fiendal coming in, gaining a bit more life back to Dromai. Mage Master's Boots allowing him to continue to play on this turn. But that's a lot of counters on Dawnblade.
I was about to say that there's a lot of things Dromai can do, but on the other side of that table is a Dawnblade who's starting at 8 right now. And it is really, really hard to take those counters off. Once they're at, say, 3, they're at 5 now. I would have to think that right now Dorinthia is in the driver's seat. I don't see a way where Dromai can match pound for pound here what Dorinthia can bring to the table. So it'll be interesting to see how Galaxy plays to their outs here. We see a Necria coming in.
Yeah, if you think about the numbers in Fab, in Flesh and Blood, on average, you're going to get about 3 points of value from a card, or at least 3 defense when you're blocking. So if you want to block a 4-card hand, you got to have, if you want to block with a 4-card hand, that's going to be 12 points of block. Dawnblade starting at 8, if he has an attack reaction, that means that you got to block with your whole hand, and maybe you're going to actually stop that from hitting. On top of the dragons, Necria was able to keep all those counters on Dawnblade, even before the second attack that's going to be coming to the face. It's a very difficult position for the Dromai player to be in.
So we do see the Dawnblade, a blue pitch. So coming in for 8, the run through gives the sword go again, the +2 on the next attack. So coming in for 8 and then followed up with a red Dauntless who gives it another +3. Defense reactions costing 1 less, getting the +2 as well. So 5, 8, 13 power Dawnblade coming in to Dromai. And Dromai taking a big hit down to 11. 17 plays 11. Blue pitch. And we do see, if there was a way to bounce back here, I think Vincerikai for potentially 9 is definitely an equalizer here.
Yeah, Vincerikai coming in for 6. If it hits, 3 more damage. You got to block that with at least 2 cards, unless you want to take all that damage. And it looks like Kaiser says, fine, I'll take the 9.
Yeah, that Dawnblade now has 6 counters on it, so its base attack is 9. Dromai is at 11. The Dromai with Vincerikai and Asvalai on the board, though, that is, Dromai bounced back here. The game is not in hand completely. If Dromai can defend a lot, they need to defend a lot. They have 11 points of life. They have 4 cards in hand. If one or more of those is defense reaction, it looks like Dorinthia has the potential here to attack for anywhere up to 9, 12, 15. You could potentially looking at somewhere around 18 damage this turn.
Well, 18 damage, and that's only if you hit and get go again. And that's not counting any boosts from the attack reactions. Interesting though to think the Dorinthia player Kaiser over here said to themselves, "Yeah, I'm taking damage, but I have the cards in my hand where I don't care." You got to think the card in arsenal, the 4 cards in hand. He can really use this turn to push through a lot. And with only 11 life, I mean, 11 life, normally double digits is one thing, but when the Dawnblade has 6 counters on it, it doesn't feel like a lot.
No, and we only have 1 block on the furnace. Like I said, 4 cards in hand, 1 in arsenal. They only have so much. The refraction bolters are still there, so if it does leak through, which is almost a guarantee at this point, we know that the Dawnblade will almost virtually guaranteed to attack at least twice. So we know that there's 18 there's 18 damage just with the Dawnblade if it presenting that way. 4 cards in hand and a card in arsenal. One of those is almost guaranteed to be a blue pitch unless they hit like just the worst case scenario, all red hands here. But it does look like they're looking through the lines to maximize their damage here. I wouldn't be shocked to see, one of those powerful actions, non-attack actions. If they loaded up here with the Steel Blade Supremacy, for instance, here, I think it would be a pretty good sign that they're trying to put the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, really taking their time to figure out what they're going to do. Either that or it's the video lagging. But this is going to be a very significant turn for Kaiser. Ooh, looks like they're making their move. Starting out with the Nature's Path Pilgrimage. This does give the +3 bonus, and on hit, you can put a card from your deck into the arsenal. So potentially seeing them start with this, it could just be for the damage, bring Dawnblade up. Looks like to... Is that 11 I see?
Yep, I believe they're representing 11 with the dice, which is very convenient here for us. Still has 1 resource floating here, so at the very least can pump it to, you would expect at least a +3 potentially out of it. But is right now, as we speak, presenting lethal to Dromai, so they do have to respond.
Yeah, and I was confused about the 11 because 9 + 3 is 12. Looks
correct.
Like the player resolved that math. And 12 cards, that's 4 3 blocks, or some 3 blocks, a 2 block in the armor. It's hard to block that without even thinking about the reactions. Right
8,
here,
9.
Does Break the Embers block for 3?
Don't know. It might be a 2 block.
Yeah, so there could be a defense reaction right there that brings it up to 12. Let's see if there's an attack reaction to counter this.
So all 4 cards from their hand being used, the armor and the Singing Steel Blade. No resources means this is likely going to be +4. The Steel Blade fetching the Iron Song response. With a card in hand, you get the +4, get the on hit, and pitch the card. If it's a blue, even better. You can activate Braveforge Bracers, but they will get the on hit unless that is another sync in Arsenal. But that would be super fortunate.
Yeah, a sync or even a sand cover would potentially do the trick.
They need 1 card 4 block right now.
Yeah. Right now, with what we see on the board, there's a difference in 1 more power on the Dawnblade. Singing Steel Blade could potentially get an Iron Song response. It could potentially get something like an Overpower, and then pitching the card in hand to play for it. We also still don't know what the card in Arsenal on Kaiser's side is. That could also be an attack reaction. Looks like we have here Glint the
The Glint.
Quicksilver.
We're getting greedy. I'm curious to see what's in his hand because we're gonna get that card draw, but that is not just the reaction for the +4 total. So we are getting this is 13 go again.
Yeah, so still hitting for 1 with all of the known information. Looks like we're
What?
seeing the
Oh, he
other defensive
does.
reaction.
He has the fate for seeing out of Arsenal, the blue pitch, and a route. Oh, still has 1 float here. Route coming in for 2 with the reprise, bringing a card back to hand. They brought the rake the embers, the 2 block. So obviously, if you bring a defense reaction, you could play it right back. And route does give a +3 on top of that, so that is 13-3 coming in for 16.
Yeah, that's a very big Dawnblade swing. It is hitting for 2 damage. And we got the go again coming in from Glint the Quicksilver. Dorinthia's
We
ability
should
lets
have 1
Dawnblade
resource
strike
float.
it
There
back.
it is there. Yep, and he should be able to. He doesn't even need to break the refraction bolt. There's the Glint gave it go again. So he is coming. He should be able to come right back here with another base 9.
Yep.
Potentially 10 with the. I believe it looked like he was looking for the Brave Forge activation.
Yeah, it looks like.
And does he go to 1? He goes to 1.
Mhm. All right, so the game isn't over yet. Though
No.
things are, we can still see an attack from the dragon coming in.
Yeah, there it
Vincerikai
is.
is presenting lethal.
Yeah, Vincerikai coming in for 6. If it hits, dead, basically. But Dorinthia needing to put some cards in front here. They just need 1. They feel like they just need to be able to get. Ooh, and we do see that's right because passing Mirage breaks the Phantasm.
Ooh, and now we got
The Iron
Dominate
Strong
coming in.
Determination dominates and presents the hand in a GG's. Kaiser Wong taking it over Galaxy Yang. Dorinthia over Dromai.
Yeah, this I think was a very exciting classic matchup. Dorinthia and Dromai is one where you think you know how things are going to go, but anything can happen in Flesh and Blood. Over here, the win went to Team Blue Pitch, and we're gonna have another game from them in just a second. But while production's ready, Pat, how do you feel about this game? Do you think that that's about what you were expecting, or do you think that things got shaken up at all?
I think it's always a gamble when you allow Dorinthia to keep those counters on. So you got to think, as the Dromai player, was there an opportunity to perhaps stem the bleeding a little earlier there that would have prevented such a momentum swing there? I think getting that 4th and 5th counters on there while using, there was the glistening steel blade aspect of it targeting the allies, but I think you are defensive deck. You have to throw the things in front of there. You have to get the counters off of Dawn Blade because it is just it is stupid thick when it gets up that high, and you're dealing with a weapon that can attack over and over again. Base attack 9 at the end there. That's pretty daunting. Dromai kept it close. The Vincerikai into Asvalai, I think, is as good of a of a clapback as I think you can get in that deck, but you really need to keep Dory in check the whole game.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Once those counters showed up, they never went away. And when Dorinthia gets to keep her counters, she gets to keep the wins. Just a
Mm-hmm.
reminder to the viewers, thanks all for tuning in. We just finished our first game of the night, Kaiser Wang against Galaxy Yang. We're going to have our next game coming up, Jack Tong against Ho Chin Lai. Hopefully I pronounced those right. And then following that, our main event is going to be Dan Rutkowski against Michael Hamilton. So a game that I'm certainly very excited to see the outcome.
That's right. The main event of the evening is the rematch. You can only find it here on FTC. Dan Rutkowski versus Michael Hamilton. Yep, we've got Jack Tang versus Ho Chun Lai coming up here, and this will be a battle between Reinar and Breyer. A very interesting matchup. Both of them in very good positions. I think coming into this meta after Dynasty, be interesting to see what kind of deck that Rhinar is bringing. Seems to be one of those heroes that has a lot of different options. Uh, that Berserk is kind of a wild card these days. If someone can solve that card, I think they really got something dangerous happening there. But Reiner in a fantastic position this winter. Coming into ProQuest season, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And just to remind people, this stream is brought to you by Fab Foundry. So be sure to go to their website when you're buying singles. Type in the code TEAMCUP10 to get 10% off your singles now between the end of the tournament. That is going for towards the prize support and funding of the tournament. We saw that playmat earlier for the championship. Fab Foundry is taking care of all that. The playmats, the booster boxes for the winners, all the glory, the prestige that comes with winning the Fab Team Cup, all on the line. We are on the semifinals here tonight, Friday night fights. We have Team Blue Pitch and Team Gold facing off against each other this week, and the Runaways versus Indie Arsenal featuring the likes of Dan Rutkowski and Michael Hamilton. And I believe that the next match is ready to fire up, production truck. So we will be cutting to that game momentarily. And again, that's Jack Tang on Rhinar versus Ho Chun Lai on Briar. And that is coming up right now.
Yeah, Briar and Rhinar, both heroes that have a lot of explosive potential in the matchup. With Briar, everyone knows about Channel Mount Heroic and how crazy that can get. With Rhinar, we've seen a lot of fun stuff. Recently, we had Chandler Toe winning the calling in San Jose. I faced him on day 2, and it was a very interesting game. He plays very well, but now Rhinar has a lot more stuff coming in from Dynasty, so we'll have to see how Jack decided to build his deck. Looks like he's leading off with the card that I don't usually associate with Rhinar, though it makes a lot of sense. Glimpse the Oracle, letting him do some opting, maybe make sure that whatever he draws off the top and potentially discards makes a lot more sense. But both of those cards going to the bottom. Followed by that barraging beatdown, intimidate, of course, Rhinar's special ability, taking cards away from his opponent's ability to block with, and giving a little bonus on the side. Looks like the players are figuring out a way to randomly select cards.
Yeah, right. Always kind of interesting here. I mean, what is random? For instance, I don't think as long as it's undisclosed information, the opposing player, I believe, can choose and satisfy any kind of requirement there. We do see, I believe, is the Rhinar on turn 0? I believe we haven't seen anything from the Briar. I believe that just that embodiment of Lightning Token, I believe, is just off to the side at the moment.
Yeah, both those tokens, I think, are not in effect. That was turn 0 on the Rhinar, choosing to just play those 2 non-attack actions and pass. No need to let the Briar player actually filter their hand. Here, Ho-Chan is going to be, coming in now as turn 1, and we'll see how they end up going. Looks like they've chosen to use Aether Ironweave as their equipment, and the Rhinar player actually has a Hardened Cross Trap, so none of these players using the Tunic in a change of pace.
Yeah, the heart and cross trap near and dear to my heart. I'm a Katsu player first and foremost before all else, and we love to get that surging strike in for free with the heart and cross trap. Good to see Rhinar playing it. We see Briar here with the Exude Confidence with no. So this is the Snapdragon Scalers version of Briar, so we will be seeing a more, I guess at this point, traditional version. You're not going to see Spellbound Creepers instanting, coming, forcing Channel Mount Heroics or Force of Natures coming in at instant speed, for instance, making some wacky play lines and adding some action points. When there's some static coming from the production truck here.
Yeah, I don't think the viewers can hear that static.
No.
Lightning Press, though, brought that Exude over the top. Now we got the Embodiment of Earth coming in, followed by a Swing Big. Swing Big, one of those cards where if you've been checking TCG Player, has been rising in price very steadily. I believe they're like $20 right now. A very exciting 2 for 8.
2 for 8. Block out, get a Quicken token. No one ever wants to block out. Though, of course, if there was a hero that would want to block out and get that Quicken token, I think Briar's one of the people that can, or one of the heroes that can really utilize that probably the best. But the Briar eats the 8, goes to 32. We saw a Reckless Swing be pitched here. Will that come up in the near future? We'll see. The Bramble Spark coming in, non-attack action, fused with the Autumn's Touch, followed up by the Force of Nature, creating the embodiment of lightning here for Briar. We should see an attack to follow coming up. Let's see what will be boosted and present a on-hit card draw with Go Again here momentarily. The Swarming Gloomveil. So we have created 2 auras, the Force of Nature and the Embodiment, both auras. So
Force
2
of
auras.
Nature is a non-attack action.
Oh, is it just?
It's not an aura. It's just this turn effect, I believe.
Then this would be coming in for 6/7 Go Again. Go Again already insured.
Yeah, an embodiment of lightning. It looks like
yes, by the creation of the embodiment of the lightning, Swarming Gloomveil, just by its nature, gets the Go Again. So it does look like a 4/7 block coming in.
Yeah, currently it's even. We'll see if we if anything's boosting that power. Looks like it isn't, so there's not going to be an on-hit. But it's followed up by an Enlightened Strike. They didn't tell us which mode it is, but it looks like taken...
Yeah, right. It would have to be 7 in order to get the card draw. But we'll see what kind of life total went down there. But Force of Nature would be in effect if they choose the +2 mode. There seems like the most logical choice there.
They got the draw. It's an Arsenal. Pretty effective turn. Briar player bringing the life back down, taking some cards away. But now we're seeing Blood Rush Bellow. One of the, there are some cards with some heroes where when you see them, you know it's going to be a big turn. Force of Nature, usually one of those cards on Briar. Blood Rush Bellow, definitely one of those cards on Rhinar.
Yeah, Blood Rush Bellow, one of the few, I'd call him a 1-card win con. Here in Flesh and Blood, can really turn a game just right on its face. The Intimidate trigger coming right off the bat. That looks like a pack call. One of the classic Battles editions to the Rhinar repertoire. So before anything else, there is the Intimidate that needs to be taken care of.
Yeah, so we got 1 card Intimidated. Blood Rush Bellow gonna let him draw 2 more cards and give all of his brute attacks +2. Starting out with some of these claws coming in for 5 with Go Again because a 6 power attack card was discarded.
Yep, Rhinar doing some nasty stuff here. Pretty much guaranteed at least 10 free damage, because I don't think Briar's in a position to put cards in front of that either one of those claws. Really anticipating what that next attack would be. This would be a very good case for the Rhinar to break the Heart and Cross Strap if it has a couple good attacks here in hand. Rhinar might be using some of the you get the claw with the Go Again. Probably after the claw, we'll see if the Scab Skins are rolled to get an extra action point or 2. But something spicy like a Pulping or a Wild Ride, great time to break the Heart and Cross Trap if you got it.
Yeah, it looks like Ho-Chun debating whether or not they want to use their helmet to block. Maybe they want to take that card from Arsenal, put something in hand so they could continue to block this turn. And it looks like that's what they're doing. Yeah, so a block for 2, 3 damage going over.
Yep, getting that card in hand with Crown. We'll see what else happens here.
Yeah, Crown has a few, I think, key utility points. One of them is if you see a Command and Conquer, it can free up the Arsenal. The other one is if you need to block more, it can take that Arsenal and help you block more. Looks like, as you predicted, we are seeing a Wild Ride over here, doing a little draw discard action, and it's not hitting.
Well, it does not have go again, right? So the high roller going, very interesting choice. I wonder where that if they had that high roller in the wild ride, I feel like they could have just attacked with the claws again first,
Well,
and
it could have
then the
also been
wild
a drawn
ride.
card from the whole draw discard.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we of course don't know. They shuffled it up real well. But this, I believe, is coming in for 8 damage, so still very significant. The players are at equal life total right now. 4 cards in hand on the Briar side, and he knows that there's not going to be another attack after this, because that go again did not go through.
Reinar, victim, victim of some RNG sometimes. It's just the way the cookie crumbles when you're doing that draw discard stuff. Prime position here for Briar to looks like the Aether Iron we've used to block 1 of 6. Going to take 5 here. Keep a 4-card hand and be able to respond. Expecting. That's right. There was a card that was intimidated. So a 5-card hand,
Right.
the crown taking, the crown cycling through one of those cards. But yeah, 5-card hand being able to respond here. We'll see what Briar can do.
Yeah, with 5 cards, Briar can really pull a lot. The ability to generate additional go again with the embodiment of
Ooh.
lightning, the ability to pump cards significantly with things like Channel Mount Heroic, as we're seeing here. All the attacks are going to get attack action cards are going to get +3. There's definitely this looks like it's going to be a very scary turn.
We will notice the blue pitch was this round's on me, so it was not an earth card initially. So we do see the earth card Impulsive Candlehold being pitched afterwards to the Grasp of the Arknight to create a rune chant. And now Scar for Scar coming in for 7 and 1 arcane with the go again. Briar with the lower life total triggering the Scar for Scar here. It looks like they took at least the 1 arcane. They're going to take all of it. They're taking 7 more. The embodiment of Earth should be created at this point. I don't see that.
Yeah, it looks like they may have missed that trigger. Just coming in with the Rosetta Thorn after that. But really, when you have Chalaman Heroic,
For 2
if
and
you're going to
2.
have a card in Arsenal, you're going to be set up pretty well for the next turn. And it looks like the Rhinar player, though, did keep all their stuff, so really trying to have an opportunity to pressure away from that Channelman Heroic big turn coming up. With Briar, they almost sort of telegraph when you gotta watch out for them. You see them set the Channelman Heroic, that takes 2 cards to pitch, to play, so it's really the turn after they have it where they got everything that you can see the real danger going through. Looks like we're actually seeing the
Oh, we get a 5, almost a 6.
Yeah. 2 action points coming in for Reinar. This is going to allow them to put on even more pressure.
The old wonky TTS dice roll always looks a little sus sometimes here, but we do see the Savage Feast does draw a card. Looks like the Wild Ride was discarded. Oh, no. There we go. The Bare Fangs was discarded, so they will draw a card. They have the extra action point. Still has a resource floating, 2 cards in hand, 1 in arsenal. I do think that the Reinar likely needed to repeat a Blood Rush Bellows turn to really keep on pace here. To threaten cards out of hand at this juncture, they really need to threaten lethal or some sort of very disruptive on hit. Reinar doesn't have a ton of those unless they're packing a pummel. So I think Reinar really needs to put on comparable pressure here to get some cards out to reduce the clapback that is inevitable here for Briar.
Yeah, looks like we are seeing the claws come in, followed by the Heart and Crossstrap activation to follow up with another one of those Bare Fangs. So lots of damage going through this turn.
6, 3, 9, another potential 8.
Yep,
and it is swing big, so it comes in for 8.
Yeah, though still not lethal.
9, 8, 17. Still looks like they're going to put a card. Nope. The Intimidate is in effect here.
Yeah, the Briar player, they have 2 cards intimidated. They're thinking to themselves, is it worth blocking, or do I want to keep all of this to strike back? Taking all this damage would bring them down to 6. Not a super dangerous life total to be at, though everything is dangerous when you're up against a Rhinar. Meanwhile, it looks like they did take that damage, so they're going to be coming back now with Channel Mount Heroic up and 5 cards available, 4 in hand, 1 in arsenal. Let's see how much they can deal.
We see a Sonata coming in first. They will pitch a blue to it. So this will be a Sonata where X equals 1, showing 4 cards. We'll see how far they can extend their hand here. There's 1 attack. There's 2 attacks. There's a non-attack and a non-attack, getting a red Snatch and a blue Autumn's Touch. So they have a Earth resource in hand, and they have a 4 attack. The Snapdragons are there. Channel Mount Heroic is on the board. That is pretty good. That is, no matter what else Briar had in their hands, they are raring to go now.
Yeah, Sonata Arcanix, one of those cards. I remember a lot of people, including myself, skeptical if it's actually worth it, because if it whiffs, it really whiffs. But recently, you've seen it perform really well in the decks that do well at Worlds. Over here, this game right now, it can just provide so much of a benefit. And getting 2 cards hit, arcane damage, it opens up potentially half of an embodiment of lightning. If one of those is going to come through, we'll see if there's a non-attack action. It can just be a very effective card. And if it's not going to hit, at least it shuffles away the bad stuff, because that was going to be an ineffective next turn following. Looks like we do have an Enlightened Strike coming in. My guess is they're going to choose the Go Again mode. Nope,
they could potentially draw a card because of Snapdragon Scalers is there. So at the very least, coming in for 8, draw a card, and there we do see the Snapdragons for the Go Again. The Nimbleism, creating the embodiment of lightning, likely going to see the Snatch to follow up here if I were them. Depending on what else they have in their hand, a Snatch for 10 Go Again would feel pretty good and present more than lethal, forcing at least some cards out of hand.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty significant damage-wise. Being able to present lethal with cards we already know are there and still having 2 cards left to follow is a scary thing to see. We still have, on the Rhinar player, card in arsenal, 4 cards in hand, and 1 block left on the boots. So there's still definitely room to block, but this is the kind of turn that the Briar players always want to see.
Yep, absolutely. We do know that blue Autumn's Touch is there, so they're guaranteed to come in for 5 with the Rosetta buffed. Ooh, we're going to see the Rune Chant activated now. I wonder if there is a Swarming Gloom Veil before the Snatch.
Yeah, and actually,
an Entwine Lightning. So the Entwine Lightning. Oh, we're gonna. All right, there's some options here, but the Rune Chant being created, embodiments breaking Go Again, the Entwine Lightning coming in for 10 Go Again plus 1 Arcane. So the Rune Chant taking the making Rhinar's life go from 7 to 6, just forcing that much more of an awkward block and that much more imperative to keep Rhinar alive here. And following the Snatch for 7. There's 2 cards in hand. He's gonna get it. No, he could block out entirely. There it is, going down to 2, drawing a card.
Yeah, definitely. Still alive for the Rhinar. Channel Mount Heroic isn't going to stick around, but that I would think is an effective comeback following that previous turn from the Rhinar.
Yeah, right. That Blood Rush Bellows really needed to. Right, that crackback 5-card hand needed to be a little more than it was. The Channel Mount Heroic is gone. Look, there are things that happen when you're playing as Briar that can mean a lot of things. Ooh, Rhinar shuffling their hand. Looks like they kind of have a feeling what's going to happen. Gorg Tome coming in. So Rhinar unable to play. Briar at 6. Briar's basically fine with everything up to 2 life because the Reckless Swing presents lethal at that point. So as long as you're 3 or more, we see the Sonata creating the embodiment of lightning and the hit with the Scar for Scar Bramble Sonata. So Sonata coming in for 1 arcane. The writing's on the wall, folks. Here.
All that Ho-Chun needs to do is present arcane damage right now. It doesn't matter how Rhinar blocks with 2 life. Arcane damage from Sonata, arcane damage from a Runechant, arcane damage from Rosetta Thorn. That ends the game pretty much. Already we see Jack has taken the life total down to 0, sort of conceding.
Yep, there it is. So there's there's a whole bunch of cards being landed there. Briar taking it. Briar. So Team Gold, Ho-Chun Lai on Briar, taking it over Jack Tang of Blue Pitch on Rhinar. Rhinar keeping it close. Rhinar always has that explosive potential to really take over a game. That Intimidate ends up being a little costly here for Rhinar, not being able to fully remove those cards, only temporarily removing cards from hand. So giving Briar that 5-card hand back, them being able to get that Channel Mount Heroic down, keep it on the board, turn that into plus 15 damage on top of everything else. Briar making some good lines there, breaking the Snapdragons, getting the embodiment late, really having that crazy turn that's trademark for Briar, and sending Rhinar home packing.
Yeah, with a lot of these aggressive decks, they're not going to have too many turns in the game. I know I overheard some people saying that they were expecting to win on the 4th turn of every game against another aggressive deck. And if the game went longer than that, then they would have to, switch strategies, or that they would be surprised of that outcome, or it meant something bad to them. Briar, a very, very aggressive deck. It has so much explosive potential, as we saw. And if you don't respect the arcane damage, you can just push over the last few life without your opponent having any way to interact. Our next game that's going to be coming up very soon is going to be against Dan Rutkowski against Michael Hamilton. Very excited for that one. Pat, we got any more announcements before we play that game?
We do want to remind everyone again that this stream is brought to you by Fab Foundry. Go to fabfoundry.co, use the code TEAMCUP10 when you're buying singles, get 10% off of your purchase, help the Fab Team Cup. And I do believe before we start this game, we are going to take a quick 90-second intermission here, and we'll be right back momentarily.
All right. Yeah, we'll see you all again in just a minute or so, or a few minutes.
Welcome back, fight fans. Before we get to the main event of the evening, let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen tomorrow night. This is two-night spectacular here. Saturday night, Slaughterfest. Friday night fight, Saturday night slaughter. Haven't come up with a Saturday night tag yet. We'll figure that out on the fly here. But the main event tomorrow night is going to be Kelvin Law versus Pudding Tam. Blue Pitch versus Team Gold happening there. The co-main event is going to be Brody Spurlock versus Travis McDaniels, a slugfest in the making. There's two other matches on the other card to round out the Team Gold and Team Blue Pitch matches there, but that is going to fire off live 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. Main event, Kelvin Law versus Pudding Tam. Co-main, Brody Spurlock versus Travis McDaniels. But that is tomorrow. Now is time for the main attraction here. World champion Michael Hamilton versus would-be world challenger Dan Rutkowski. Probably two of the best players in the game in their respective heroes. Rutkowski on his signature Phi and Hamilton on his signature Icelander deck. Andy, does it get any better than this?
No, this is the game that I think we've all been waiting for. That rematch of what we saw in the finals of U.S. Nationals. As I was saying earlier, Pat, these two played each other both in the top 8 U.S. Nats and in the Swiss rounds. And in the Swiss rounds, Dan took the win. In the top 8, we obviously saw Michael Hamilton ended up winning the event. So this here is the best 2 out of 3, the third game. Whoever wins this will have won it all, at least until these two players face each other again, probably at the next calling or whatever shows up in the Pro Tour, whichever it ends up first.
You know what? I heard that this is going to be it for both of them. They're going to retire after this, so we'll never have this matchup again. You'll only find it here on the FTC Friday Night Fights here. Andy, what does Dan have to do as Phi here to change the outcome from that U.S. Finals match against Icelander and Michael Hamilton?
Yeah, so Phi, of course, wants to put on the pressure, deal so much damage to Icelander that they just die before they're able to do much else. Icelander, the Michael Hamilton build uses a lot of efficient attacks in the form of those 3-for-8s, Wounded Bull, Fendel's Fighting Spirit, value-wise, while also having disruption in the form of you've got the Blizzard, you've got the Hypothermia, you've also got the Channel Lake Frigid. We saw Channel Mount Heroic really cinch our last game with Briar. Channel Lake Frigid is probably the worst card for a Phi to see. Also, on the disruption side, you have things like Brainstorm and not Brainstorm, I'm sorry, Brain Freeze,
Yep.
that can take a card out of the Phi's player's hand. Every card Phi has represents almost exponential damage increasing up. I'm good at math for sure. And then also just the general extra ice Frostbite token a turn that Icelander can provide depending on what they play from Arsenal. So if Michael Hamilton is able to slow Dan down enough that Dan isn't able to do the overpower, that's how he gets the win. If Dan is able to get those efficient hands, finding ways to get enough pitch to deal the damage that they need while keeping cards in hand to do that damage, then that's how he will end up winning this game.
And we've seen Michael Hamilton a few times here on FTC, and of course, he's been all over the place in high-profile events. He has done this plenty of times where it'll seem like he's not in a great position early, but he'll eat a few points of damage here, put an Insidious Chill out, put a Frost Hex out, do something along those lines, and then in that mid-game, all of a sudden, get that Ice Vein fused and just completely rip his opponent's hands apart. And that is the icy quicksand that is the beginning of the end for his opponent. So even as it might seem like those life totals are getting a little disproportionate, we got to be paying attention to Hamilton's board state, because if he has that opportunity to get those fused cards and trigger those Insidious Chills, his opponent is going to have a rough time. We do see the equipment being flipped over here, and on the Phi side, we do see the Mask of Pouncing Lynx, the Furnace, the Shuko, and Tide Flippers. So AB1 coming in for Phi. On the Icelander side, we do see the Coronet Peak Tunic, Storm Striders, and Iron Rot Gauntlet.
Yeah, those Iron Rock gauntlets useful against Fi because Fi presents a lot of 4-power attacks with on hits. So sometimes you just want to block with a 3 defense and then just throw in those gauntlets, not pitch anything else just to stop that from hitting. Turn 0, Michael Hamilton coming in with what appears to be an Aether Ice Vein. I'm not sure if that's red or yellow. I think it's red, but already arcane damage that's way over the top of that AB1 Dan is presenting.
We see the fuse here. That AB1 does represent, I think, the kind of the consensus on what the most efficient way to handle these effects are. If Dan has a blue pitch in hand, right, he would effectively AB1 with 2 float to pay for the Ice Vein discard effect, and there's the Soul Bead Strike blue to do just that. You see the 2 float, so Fi likely taking the remaining 4 or 3. It does look a little yellowish, but it's hard to see here. But does take that arcane damage and will likely pay the 2. There's the 4, so that is a red.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting that Hamilton chose to fuse on this turn 0. That really gives Dan the opportunity to filter his hand if he wants. Looks like he decided he didn't want that Engulfing Flame Wave. He's just going to draw more cards and deal with other stuff later. Waning Moon coming in for another 1 damage over that blue pitch, so Dan's going to keep the 2 cards of his choice, having pitched and discarded the other 2. And we'll see how this turn 1 goes, where the blocking matters a little bit more.
I think all the fight fans here are going to be paying attention to that Engulfing Flame Wave existing in Dan's deck, not there originally in his last iteration in the Worlds. So all the the acolytes here are going to be writing that one down and seeing where that one comes in. We do see the Mounting Anger coming in with the blue pitch floating 2. So starting off with a 4 attack here, I do believe that that's kind of the best case here for Fi is to come in strong with one of those breakpoint attacks, force Icelander to make that decision earlier than they might be comfortable doing, whether or not they have to throw that open that arsenal card up and get a Frostbite token. You have some of those heroes that are playing those non-attack actions. You can really tax them. This is an ideal way for Fi to be dealing that damage early.
Yeah, let's take a look at how efficient this play has been for Dan. So far, 1 resource has been pitched. Mounting Anger came in for 4 damage. Because of the on hit, this Blaze Headlong is coming in for 5 damage. Both of them have Go Again. 2 resources still floating, so the Sword can come in. A Phoenix Flame can be gotten. So already we're seeing 3 cards coming in for 9, and that's on top of the Sword being able to swing right now for another 3. This efficiency, the ability to use cards with other cards for more and more damage, this is part of what makes Fi such a powerful hero in general.
Absolutely, Hamilton. I think thinking long and hard about taking that 5 more and seeing.
I think he's already taken it, actually.
Oh, did you take the 5? Go. Yes, that's right. You are correct. 32 to 27 is 5. I can also math.
Yeah, we're really good at math here over in the casting booth. Nothing says math like casting.
That is correct. And there's the Ember Blade. My crayons say that is going to come in for 3. As you mentioned, the Phoenix Flame now is potentially free. An E-Strike coming in to block for that 3.
Yeah,
makes you think how red is that hand for Icelander right now.
Yeah, you don't know. The Bulllander style deck has a lot of options. If they don't want to do something strong with Arcane, they can block. This could also just be an instance where there's one of the Aether Ice Veins ready to be fused. Over here we see Exude Confidence coming in. Once this passes the layer stage, Michael Hamilton won't be able to respond until he blocks with something bigger. But right now, while it's in the layer stage, potentially there's the ability to use something instant speed. Looks like that's not going to happen. Michael Hamilton just took all of that damage except for 3, blocking the Sword with the E-Strike. I wonder what he's got up his sleeve right now.
Exude Confidence, another Unexpected addition here, but does make a lot of sense. Friend of the combat chain, Kugani Gaming, would be super thrilled right now. He has been extolling the virtues of Exude Confidence, saying that it's criminally underplayed, and here we see it coming out to play against Icelander right now, and we do see the Scar for coming in. This kind of explains a little bit about how much he was eating there. We see the Scar for Scar coming in for 4 go again, followed by the Final Fighting Spirit coming in for 7 and gaining a life. So an 11 point slap back here from Michael Hamilton.
Yeah, we saw Dan deal 9 plus the Phoenix Flame in damage going through, 3 more threatened from the sword with all those cards. Over here, Hamilton's pitching 1, playing 2 cards to get a very similar result, and it's these efficiencies that make this Icelander build as effective as it has been.
And Hamilton loves the turn cycle math. You can see him; he's running his hands across the cursor across those cards, and you know he's running those numbers in his head right now. Where 5's got 4 cards, what is his maximum turn cycle value? He's got 5 cards with the arsenal. What is his? And already likely deciding what card is going to go here in order to maximize his turn value.
Yeah, Dan at the same time trying to figure out what he can do, not only with 4 cards, but with 4 cards, assuming some level of disruption. Is there going to be a frostbite coming in that might hit him at an inopportune time? What if there's something like a blizzard or a hypothermia? Is Dan trying to plan his whole turn about that? Possibly. With players at this high of a skill level, they know what they expect to see in the other players' decks, and they're really trying to find ways where they can do as much as possible. I definitely know that when you see players against an Icelander, they make weird plays because they do expect some level of disruption. Over here, starting off with the Belittle Fused, this is going to get a blue card, likely one of those Minnowisms that'll have more resources, being able to use to prevent arcane damage, present more on the attack side. This is a big opportunity for Michael Hamilton if he wants to get something in before those pitch are available. And it looks like Michael's past priority. Dan's searching his deck.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I was going to say same thing there. You get that moment before the search there if you want to take advantage of the reduced number of cards, but Blue Minnowism going in there. Important to note, Belittle, right? Not a draconic attack, so the rookie move that we see a lot is pitching the Minnowism for the Emberblade. The Emberblade would not have go again in that instance. For all you 5 players looking out there, don't pitch your Minnowism for your Emberblade after your Belittle. Attack with a Rising Resentment first, and that's what we see here coming in for. I believe that's 3. I don't think that was a blue one. The block is, I believe that's a 3 block. There, followed up by the Emberblade for 3 go again.
Yeah, Hamilton choosing to block 3 on that Rising Resentment. One thing to keep in mind is that Dan does have Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, which, when he wants, could be used to fetch a Lava Burst. Right here, Phoenix Flame coming in for 2. Is this the time to pop that mask? Dan's got to have that on his mind. He still has 1 card in hand that could be used to pitch around Disruption. He could choose to attack with it. He could choose to Arsenal. There are still so many options, even with so much done in this turn.
And one of the things Fi really has to do in this matchup is stay ahead. Icelander, as long as life totals are equal, I feel like is always actually in the lead, because as long as those numbers get whittled down as they're even, those taxing effects will really take center stage. And if you're both in single digits, Icelander really has a great opportunity to just take you out there with one of those powerful Ether Ice Veins with the Storm Striders. Here we see the Snatch coming in for 4. There's no go again on it, but we do see the 4 block coming in. So Icelander, Hamilton on Icelander, having the 3 card hand to clap back here, preventing the card draw in the arsenal on Fi.
Yeah, and this is where we see those Iron Rot gauntlets really coming in. If you
Okay.
listen to Michael Hamilton's deck tech, he said basically they're in exclusively for this matchup, and that's basically to stop the 4-power attack on hits like we just saw. It kept an extra card in Hamilton's hand since he didn't have to block with it, and it looks like he's going to be able to E-Strike, likely for the +2 bonus, followed by arsenaling that last card. Normally a pretty good turn for Icelander, throwing 7, keeping 1. Still, he had to take a bit of damage to get to this point, and that's how Phi, on the other hand, puts on that pressure by going so wide.
What we're not seeing here are those items in auras that we were talking about earlier, those insidious chills, those frost amulets, those things that really help with that disruption to keep Phi from doing what it needs to do. We haven't seen a single frostbite all game here, so Icelander really on the back foot. We talked about the ability for Icelander to take a few hits before settling in their board state, but Hamilton has not been able to uh, establish that board state to help stabilize here.
Yeah, interesting here that Dan chose to use up his Flame Skill Furnace, that second block, it being a temper card, getting rid of it. I guess he decided that he wanted to keep just that one extra point of health at this point, just in case arcane damage is going to be all that follows. They say that against an Icelander sometimes you want to use your armor a bit more eagerly, because you never know when they're actually going to throw that next physical attack. Over here we have yet another Belittle. Belittle, such a great turn opener against Icelander. Fetching likely that same Minnowism that was pitched just last turn.
Yeah, we know from their previous deck tech from the Runaways channel that they were even contemplating they were running they were running 5 Belittles. They had Crown of Providence, and they said that could easily turn into the 6th, the 3rd yellow Belittle, and so would not be shocked to know that all 6 3 reds and 3 yellows are being run in this matchup here. I'm wondering if that the decision to use the furnace versus anything else is because he's trying to maximize the value on his own turns here, and that Shuko is likely producing producing that extra point of damage here and there, enough to be super relevant in this matchup here. We see the Soaring Strike coming in for 4 go again. That almost looks blue from this side, but I'm assuming that that's a 4 go again.
Yeah, Soaring Strike, one of those cards that I think was among the more controversial options, not as controversial as Engulfing Flame Wave, like we saw discarded earlier, but still, it wasn't one that all of the Phi decks used, especially during those initial Zoomer days. Nowadays, we see based on its efficiency, it's still a 1 for 4 go again. It can give something like a Snatch go again, and it went pretty effective here. Looks like that Minnowism is being pitched for the Searing Emberblade, coming in with more damage. A red Aether Ice Vein being the blocking card from Michael Hamilton. Red Aether Ice Vein, one of those cards that is just so effective in trying to turn the game. But when you have things like Blaze Headlongs following, it's just such an effective turn coming over here from Dan.
And it being used to specifically block the weapon, but we do see there it is, the Sink Below. The 1 card 4 block on the Blaze Headlong, getting we see Phi being activated here to get the Phoenix Flame out. I don't believe that should be activated right now, unless that is in fact a blue Soaring Strike, because that would have come in for 2, which would make the Shuko turn on for Phoenix Flame, and we see the Pouncing Lynx being
Yeah,
activated.
that must have been a blue Soaring Strike over there. Pouncing Lynx activated, even if a Frostbite were to show up. The Minnowism has 2 resources up right now, but it looks like with this Blizzard, we're finally seeing a Frostbite, and you got to pay 2 resources or you lose the go again. The way that things are ordered, the on-hit trigger from the Mask of the Pouncing Lynx happens before the go again on the Phoenix Flame. So there is this window for Michael Hamilton to use Blizzard after the mask fetch, but before the go again happens. A very skillful play coming from Michael Hamilton that's going to leave that Lava Burst in the banish zone perpetually.
Blue Soaring Strike. Lots of notes being taken by fans of Dan and Phi here, wondering what the best list is. here. Hamilton at 9 with an arsenal. Dan Rutkowski at 20 with a 4-card hand. Tunic up for Michael Hamilton. But he is 9 versus 20 is a lot. We talked about Icelander being able to take a few hits. He has taken all the hits. Even that Blizzard turn there, he ate a lot of damage, and to get those frostbites and stop the lava burst, it was the right move to stop that lava burst, because that was almost lethal at that point. But Hamilton, I feel like, is in a really bad spot here. And there's the engulfing flame wave again, another one, this time being played, the other one being discarded. A 5 for 2, relatively inefficient, but has a lovely on hit. We do see the 1 float. So coming in for 5, go again. On hit, you can banish the top card of your deck, and if it is an attack action that costs less than your Draconic Links, you can play it this turn.
Yeah, Michael Hamilton choosing whether or not to block this out or potentially give Dan another card this turn. At the same time, he has to weigh how much of this is something that it's worth preventing him from getting the card if he can use his ice stuff or his disruption to prevent Dan from even being able to play it. Right now, there's only 1 resourcing float, 1 card in Dan's hand. So if he wants to swing his Searing Emberblade, he's going to have to pitch that card in hand anyway. If it's a blue, then a little disruption may not be as effective. If it's a red, it could be very effective. Michael Hamilton also looking at the cards in his hand, the card in his arsenal, trying to figure out not only what is he going to do to stop Dan from overpowering him, but how he is going to end up turning that tide. As you mentioned, we haven't seen very many of those auras. No Insidious Chill, none of the items with the Amulet of Ice. These are usually the sorts of things that can let Icelander respond in a pinch, as you would say, or as I would say, as I said. Without those, Michael Hamilton is at a bit of a disadvantage compared to where an Icelander might normally be at this stage in the game.
That's right. And Dan Rutkowski on 5, taking full advantage of the open road here to just punch Icelander in the face repeatedly. Has a commanding lead on life total, still has armor to block, still has arcane barrier, and still has a card in hand. There's a lot of thinking going on Hamilton's side here. 5 damage is more than half of his total life at this point, putting him in a very precarious position. Dan has a lot of options, does not have to overextend in order to take cards away from Hamilton to force blocks here. So I feel like Dan's really in the driver's seat here. We'll see how Hamilton plays to the outs. We'll see a block, the Channel Lake Frigid block with a Coronet Peak.
Yeah, Michael Hamilton really has to think, is he ever going to actually play that Channel Lake Frigid? Or is it more beneficial to use that 3 block to prevent this Searing Emberblade? Engulfing Flame Wave. Over here, we do see the Searing Emberblade following. Looks like that was a blue snatch in Dan's hand, so probably the right move to block. Probably the right move to block off the Flame Wave. And we're seeing a bit of an inefficient block with this Sink Below. 4 defense reaction against 3 on the attack. It may be that Michael Hamilton's hand just wasn't what he wanted at this point in the game.
Feel like this is really killing him to do these kind of things. He is blocked with his red Aether Ice Vein. He's blocked with his Channel Lake Frigid. He had to overblock the Ember Blade here with the Sink Below. He's going, the value is not there. And we do see, here's the Aether Ice Vein. I do believe that is a red one. It is being fused. I believe, and this is on, I believe this is on Michael's turn right now. So, and that is not an ice card coming from Arsenal, just the Ice Vein. So no frostbites being created, but the fuse effect happening. So we will hit for 4. There's the blue to take care of all the things. So he'll take 4, pay 3.
Yeah, still 4 damage going through. That's pretty good, but at this point in the game, you have to be thinking, putting a Cold Snap in Arsenal, yeah, sure, it draws you a card and lets you swing with your Waning Moon, and it gets a Frostbite. That's decent, but usually you want to have potentially a bit more damage coming through with your arsenal when you're really trying to play for the win. And when you're at 8 life yourself against a 5, it's difficult to play anything less than peak efficiency and still find a way to beat their efficient attacks.
Absolutely, and those right. Icelander traditionally wants those 3-card hands coming from Fi. They want Fi to be playing fair. They want to be able to keep those turn cycles, right? That value low. They want to be able to force Fi into a 4, 8, 12 maximum damage turn as opposed to anything higher. But when you are on single digit life totals, that that game isn't going to work as well. You're still coming. Like, we're talking about half of his life total right now, coming from 8. Fi's attacking for 4. We see the cold snap creating the frostbite and the waning moon coming in for another 3 arcane damage here. We'll see how Dan responds.
Yeah, it looks like he's preventing 1, the most he can prevent with only having 1 of that arcane barrier. The frostbite is on the field. Dan has a whole card in hand and 1 pitch still on the board, and he's still presenting 4 damage with the attack here. So Michael Hamilton, now that he's done all these fun tricks, has to do some defending unless he wants to actually cut his life total in half.
Speaking of fun tricks, I do believe that is a blue mounting anger here. If I wasn't, if I had to guess here, I'm pretty sure Dan knew what he was getting himself into here and may have teched a little heavy here on the blue end of things to make sure that he could take care of business, and it is working. It is working perfectly right now because he has the answers, he's got the ammunition, and he's got the blue count.
Yeah, I'm sure that both players, once they saw their matchup in the team league, knew exactly what heroes they'd be playing against. Anything less than the Fi Icelander match not only wouldn't be playing to each player's strengths, but it wouldn't be playing for what the viewers want. We all wanted to see this. So being able to tech Dan, maybe having a bit more blue cards, maybe being able to do something so he could play with fewer cards in hand more effectively than if he were playing against other heroes. And Michael, on the other hand, maybe he's still using his list from Worlds. Maybe he's teched it a bit more to be more Fi heavy or anti-Fi heavy. I'm not sure. It looks like Dan does have what he needs to be able to swing at this turn.
I believe that is a brain freeze, so he gets to see his hand. I think it's the 0 cost will go.
No, brain freeze was a block card.
Oh, that is a block card.
Dan was banishing the snatch from the on-hit effect, giving it go again over here. So now it's coming in for 2 go again.
All the blues coming in here, and I do. Is that even? Because if that was a 3 block, I didn't see any other. Okay, no, I saw another card. I didn't see the Emerald Scolding there initially. So the 2-card block on the Soaring Strike, the Snatch getting blocked, Frostbite being paid.
Yeah, we do see the life totals starting to converge over here. Michael Hamilton at 7 to Dan's 14, over from where we were earlier at, I believe, 8 and 20. So depending on if Hamilton's going to be attacking with something big here, looks like we have an Enlightened Strike, probably debating +2 or the draw a card. Does he want to put something in Arsenal? My guess is he'll be drawing a card, but it's not guaranteed. But really, being able to use small numbers of cards to provide as efficient attacks as possible, that's how Icelander tries and comes back.
Going to no Arsenal is very dangerous for Icelander, though. Really leaves themselves open for the whole deck coming at them at that point. Okay, we do see the card draw there, so we do know it's coming in for 5.
Yep,
and there's the full 5 block. That is ideal, I think, scenario here. The 3 cards are going to present more than enough to take some cards away from Hamilton here, almost certainly. And there's the brand that looks red. It could be blue. There could be 30 blues in this deck, for all I know. But that does look like a red brand for 3 go again. Next attack is Draconic. no cards pitched currently, and then we do see presumably that's a 3 block.
Yeah, it's a 3 block over here, so that's fully blocking that first attack. And here we have Exude Confidence coming in. It is Draconic, if that matters, thanks to Bram with Cinderclaw. But Dan has the potential of being able to pump it up. He also, once this passes the layer step, will prevent Hamilton from using any instants unless Hamilton blocks with something with more than 4 attack, or more attack than the Exude has.
Get
Looks
your
like-
exudes now, boys and girls, because the prices get jacked up just a little bit here. And there's the full block. Presumably, is that? I'll be honest, Andy. The ice cards I'm not that familiar with. So I don't know if that was
block
a 4 block
right there.
Okay,
Two
thank
blocks.
you.
So nothing
Card
hitting there. Hamilton left with 2 cards, playing that Scar for Scar with Go Again because he's at lower life. Still has the card in hand. So this is a 0 for 4 Go Again. For no resources, pretty efficient. Dan has 4 cards in hand, 1 card in arsenal. Really thinking, is it worth blocking, or do I get more value off of using everything I've got? And at this point, what have we seen and what haven't we seen from each player? We haven't seen any Insidious Chill, any Amulet of Ice, any Frost Hex from Michael Hamilton. Probably siding out the Frost Hex against Fi makes sense. The other 2 cards, being able to add that additional disruption. Normally, I think we'd see it, but it looks like we didn't. On Dan's side, we haven't seen any Art of War yet, and we have seen some of this other blue or Exude Confidence. Art of War being one of those cards where, if you all remember the U.S. Nationals final, when he played the Art of War and that Channel Lake Frigid came in, basically ended the game right on the spot. So being able to use a reliable, here are the cards I have, I know exactly what I can do plan, even into the disruption, might make sense for Dan. On Hamilton's side, being able to figure out what exactly is the right level of attack versus disruption versus setup cards. Maybe I don't need to set up so much because I don't have time against Fi. It's so interesting watching how these top players think just based on what we're seeing them play in their decks right now.
And you got to think that Dan is going, what are the odds that is, if he takes this hit, he'll go down to 10. And is it worth going to 10 there? What are the odds that Hamilton has the sauce that that card is going to go into Arsenal? Is that the red Aether Ice Vein that will be Storm Stridered out, or some other combination of arcane damage there where they can present. It would have to be 14 damage. 13 at 10. If they prevented three arcane to get auto lethal there. So how far out do they have to go to get out of auto lethal range? Put a card in front if you can stay out of it.
Yeah, we've got Tanning Grace over in our YouTube comments saying this is a pretty decent matchup. I'd say that's the understatement of the night. Over here, though, this could be potentially the critical turn for Dan. Choosing to block these 4 could keep him in a safe position where he can just roll over to winning, but choosing to take these 4 could put him in the dangerous position where Hamilton can just roll over him with the strike back. We'll really have to see what happens as soon as Dan chooses to block. Looks like Hamilton checking his graveyard, seeing what does he have left, what has he used. From what I remember, we've seen 3 red Aether Ice Veins, right? 2 of them were played, 1 of them was blocked with. Are there a lot of yellow Aether Ice Veins in the deck? We saw Emeritus Scoldings blocked with, I believe pitched as well. How much damage is really left? It's a very interesting case for the Fi player, and we don't know what Dan has. How much damage can he present in his next turn? Michael's at 7 life. It's easy for Fi to deal 7 damage. It's easy for Fi to threaten twice that with this many cards. Looks like Dan has chosen to take it. So with 10 life, will this be the last turn of the game? Question from the YouTube comments, are the deck lists available? We don't have deck lists presented to us in the Team League. Players are not required to use the same deck every week or anything. All that matters is that they play against their opponents in the TTS. So we're not going to be able to provide those deck lists, though hopefully in watching the game, you can get a pretty good sense for what each of these players is running. Looks like we have a Belittle starting Dan's turn, a very strong start, as always. looks like 2 Ronin Renegades in his hand, 1 pitched, 1 revealed. So we'll see how the rest of this turn ends up going with still the unknown card in hand and in arsenal. Look, since nothing's happening, it looks like Michael Hamilton probably deciding, do I want to do anything at instant speed right now? This is the big window before that blue Minnowism comes into play for Dan.
Yeah, Dan taking the gamble here, going to 10, basically saying to Hamilton that you don't have it, and then coming into play here with the belittle, the potential to get the Minnowism here. I'm sure both of them are trying to do the math. Hamilton asking himself, can he deal 10 arcane damage, or at the very least stay alive another turn here, and maybe get a few licks in of his own, and keep playing to his outs here.
Yeah, when you talk to a lot of these top players, one of the things that they'll say is that there's so much, when they tried to design Flesh and Blood, they might not have wanted it to be as much of a do the math and you win kind of game. But in the end, these are players that do the math, and they do have good results because of it. Really figuring out the odds of what your opponent might have based on your knowledge of their deck, the amount of damage that you can have for the cost and for the efficiencies. These are the things that these players know how to do. They know how to do on the fly, and especially in untimed games like this, they know how to do to the maximum possible advantage for themselves. At some point, there are decisions that the players make with gut instinct or with practice or experience, and there are other decisions that they make just because that's the math, and that's what statistically would lead them to the best close to victory.
Yeah, and at 7 life, right, each one of these attacks is like such a huge percentage of his life total. He has to think about, all right, I'm going to take 2, I'm going to go down to 5 now. That puts me in a much more vulnerable state if he comes in with another 4 attack, right? If he follows up here with a something like a Soaring Strike, right, or a Mounting Anger for 4 go again, that really puts him in a disadvantage, a bad situation there. We see the Cold Snap coming in, creating the Frostbite to make things a little more difficult for Dan to try and finish up. But right now we're starting to see a little bit of that. Right, life totals are coming together. Things are slowing down. If you slow things down, Michael's happy. And let's see if he can mitigate some damage, stay alive, leak a little arcane.
Yeah, we've got a few interesting things happening. First, the Cold Snap's text here is much more relevant because Dan does have a card in Arsenal. So Dan is going to have to choose, does he pitch a card to keep that card, or does he let it get frozen by the Cold Snap? Also, we were talking about having not seen any Amulet of Ice. Well, there it is. It's in the pitch zone. I don't know if Michael's running all 3 of them in this game, or if he's running fewer, but it looks like this is the first one that we've seen so far, and it's not getting played onto the field.
Nope, that might be the story of the game. The cards that he's looking for being played in ways that he didn't want. We see his power cards used to block. We see the amulet to pitch. That is disruption that he won't have access to at the moment. He still has to consider the physical damage coming through. But the Waning Moon does come in for 3, so now we are at even life here. It'll be interesting to see. Okay, so there's the Minnowisms. All of that on the lair step there, before the blue Minnowism comes in. So now the blue Minnowism is in hand. Life totals are equal. Arcane damage has been dealt.
Yeah, and it looks like Hamilton choosing to take that belittle 2 damage down to 5, putting the back to Dan now with these cards in hand. What you gonna do?
All right, that is the playmat and booster box question, isn't it? And we do see the Ronin Renegade coming in for 3 go again. The blue Minnowism used to pitch away the Frostbite. So now 2 float, 2 cards, 1 in hand, 1 in arsenal available. It looks like the arsenal was indeed frozen. I assume that is what that is indicating.
Yeah.
So the 3 go again Icelander at 5, Fi at 7, 4 cards in hand for Hamilton, 1 card in hand for Dan. I do believe that if Hamilton wanted to deal any more damage this turn, he would have to break Storm Striders to do it. So we know at 7 he does not likely have, right there is no 7 damage arcane, or in fact an 8 damage arcane spell that he could play at the moment that would be worth it. So Dan definitely going to live this turn, and at a healthy relative life total.
Yeah, over here, Dan playing the card that was revealed to Belittle earlier, so Michael Hamilton not gaining any more insight as to what the card remaining in Dan's hand is. That's the one card that hasn't yet been revealed, so we're not sure what's coming, he's not sure what's coming, but he knows that he has to really decide, is he going to be blocking with these cards in hand? Is he going to be trying to strike back on his turn and then set up for a Stormstrider's win? Dan's in the danger zone, right? 7 life, maybe not after Waning Moon is already swung. Is that going to be lethal? But if there's another turn for Michael Hamilton on Dan's turn following that, it could very well mean the end of the game in Michael's favor. At the same time, Dan has 3 damage on the board. He has resources up to swing with Searing Emberblade, threatening another 3 damage. That's lethal. There's a card in hand. We don't know what it is. It could be a 0 cost, and there would be even more damage on top of that, or it could be something else. Michael Hamilton choosing to, once again, use a Sink Below to block a 3 attack over here on this Ronin Renegade. So choosing not to get down below 5 yet, given the information that he knows. And it looks like Dan is coming in. Ooh. Yeah, Dan's coming in here with some Rising Resentment, another 0 for 3. So Michael can see there's 3 damage, there's 3 more. Lethal is still being threatened this turn.
Absolutely. There's still more to be had there. 6 damage possible here, so definitely going to look like Hamilton will lose another card and be reduced at least to a 2-card hand on his turn. And depending on what those 2 cards are, might be able to have something of a clap back to force some cards out of Dan's hand. But it does look like Hamilton is on as much of a back foot as he's been on all season here against Dan Rutkowski.
Yeah, maybe if he wanted to pop his Stormstriders and play an ice card, he could prevent the Searing Emberblade. Not sure if that's any better value or not than blocking. We don't know what he has in his hand. But it looks like here he is blocking with that Brain Freeze. So Rising Resentment not dealing 3 damage, and the Searing Emberblade coming in for what will probably be the final 3 of Dan's turn. Oh, and here we have the Insidious Chill. First one that we've seen today, blocking 2, 1 going over. And I think I forgot this. Dan sure didn't. He can activate Fi's ability to get another point of damage through in the form of that Phoenix Flame.
Oh, yeah. Yep, that Phoenix Flame continually paying dividends, being able to leak damage through, right? Without those frostbites, Fi being able to do things at cost is just a very dangerous game for Icelander. And here we see the 1-card hand being a Scar for 4 go again. If this hits, this is the interesting one right here, right? If this hits, he goes down to 3, and that definitely puts him into a very bad spot here. But there is no arsenal here, so the maximum right possible is right in Aether Ice Vein. If he had one, right? But we said all the reds are gone. So maybe not. I don't think Hamilton has the ability to deal enough damage on his opponent's turn here. So it'd be very interesting to see how this shakes out if he puts a card down and is left with 3 and an arsenal.
Dan's got to be assuming, okay, on my turn, on Dan's turn, Michael will be able to deal 4 damage with the Stormstriders and a card from hand. Given that, we have, that's the worst case. We have 4 damage being threatened here on the board. So Dan's probably going to have to block at least some of this if he doesn't want to be in a position where it's like easy for him to die. At the same time,
Yes.
Dan's got all these cards available. The card in Arsenal is unfrozen. It can be used again. The cards in hand, he's got 4 of them. What's the best possible combination to set him up, both if he needs to defend a little bit, if he has to pitch something, if an Aether Ice Vein comes, it deals damage, it can still have the on-hit causing Dan to discard cards or pay resources. Dan is really thinking, in that worst-case scenario, what's the most he can set himself up for to both not lose, but also to win. We're playing to win here. If we're playing not to lose, then we wouldn't end up winning most of the time. Dan choosing to block with an Enlightened Strike, preventing all but 1 of those damage, bringing him down to 6 life.
I think that's the right move, right? Get down to 6, block with 1 card, and here we see all just threatening lethal immediately. 4 go again. If Hamilton has it, I think he needs to play it, because he can at most threaten. If he can threaten with a non-attack at instant speed with Storm Striders, and then Waning Moon for 3, he's got something. It's not nothing.
Yeah, if we're right and 4 is the most that a card from hand can do, the Waning Moon presents another 3, that's 7, and Dan has Arcane Barrier 1, so with 2 resources, that 7 damage isn't lethal. That would bring Dan down to 1 if 2 are prevented. Michael choosing to use a Brothers in Arms with that Tunic resource. So this is another one of those 4 blocks, negating the on-hit from the Soaring Strike. Not going to be any snatches with Go Again this turn. And, that's probably as much as Michael was hoping for to get out of that card. But now we're seeing the Belittle. Ooh, and there was a snatch. That looks like a blue snatch in hand.
Yep, that triggers Belittle with the two damage. So being able to fetch the Minnowism. So we will see a Emberblade, Phoenix Flame, and a Snatch here potentially for 6 more damage coming through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is and Hamilton knows this, right? He knows we got the 3 damage from the Belittle on the board. We've got 3 more coming. If either of those deal their full amount of damage, he dies. At this point, the Tunic, he's used the resource. He's not going to get another 3 counters on those Tunic. That represents 1 more life. He can throw that in front of whatever he wants. And then
9 damage across 4 cards is about to come. That's a pretty bad spot for Mike to be in.
9 damage, assuming that he plays all that Dan. Dan's got to keep in mind that he wants to potentially prevent 2 arcane damage. It really depends on what Michael Hamilton throws out, if he uses those Storm Striders or not. Hamilton could just have a hand that doesn't have lethal. That's a possibility. There are only so many cards that deal 4 or more damage in the Icelander deck, and he's only got 3 of them left in his hand. At the same time, Dan has the Phoenix Flame in his graveyard, the Emberblade on the board, that Snatch that we just saw, all sorts of stuff. Insidious Chill, a 2-block being put in front of the Belittle, so 1 damage going through, 2 life left from Michael Hamilton.
There's the Emberblade for 3, so that's at least another card. So we have, that's another card right there. At 2, we do know that the Snatch is 2 damage. So that will be at least another card. So I think he might be just down to 1, but he'll have no hand if I have this right.
Yeah, Michael Hamilton seeing that Phoenix Flame, choosing to block with his Tunic, doesn't need to take that damage if he doesn't have to. And Snatch, at this point, Hamilton can't use his Emberblade and a big attack if he has it. Looks like that's a perfect 2-block against the 2-power Snatch. So Hamilton ending the turn with 2 life, but he's not going to have anything for his arsenal, and Dan's about to draw 4 more cards.
That's right. This looks like it's pretty close to an end. This is we keep talking about what Hamilton needs to do to play to his outs, and it's the same scenario. And there's the 4. That is a 4 attack with go again. The red soaring strike, the minnowism being pitched, 2 float, 2 cards in hand. Dan at 6 life. Hamilton at most being able to deal 7 total potentially. I think basically it would have to be a yellow or blue Emeritus Scolding at instant speed, and then followed by a Waning Moon, and he's got the 2 floating right there. So he's got the ability to prevent lethal from those two things. So I think Hamilton is in. He's up Schitt's Creek. I think he's about to drop his paddle.
Well, he did just gain 1 more life from that fighting spirit. But yeah, when you see Fi against other heroes, when Fi has the momentum and both heroes have low life, I find that most of the time, Fi is the hero that's able to pull through, get the damage that it needs. I was watching a bit of practicing done earlier between like a Fi and a Dash, and it was the same sort of thing. Both players were at 1 life. The Fi was able to find ways to deal enough damage to win.
Does he have the blue? He does have the blue. There's the exude confidence. Coming in for 4, the block and the blue pitch to give it to make it 6 seals the deal. Dan Rutkowski taking it over Michael Hamilton with a very spicily teched out Fi list to really get one over on Hamilton here. And that is a hell of a main event here tonight. The Runaways, Dan Rutkowski taking it over Michael Hamilton on Icelander, getting the rubber match as well, 2 for 1. Rutkowski over Hamilton. Who's the GOAT for real? Just because Hamilton won the World Championship doesn't mean anything if he's got a losing record against Rutkowski, staking his claim for GOAT status here on the FTC. The only place you could see a rematch like this here, the US Nats rematch, of course, as the main event tonight, the semifinals of the FTC Cup here.
Yeah, both of these very good players. This over here, a very good play, a very good game. Maybe Michael Hamilton didn't get the draws he wanted. Maybe Dan did. Maybe Dan teched his deck a bit better and Michael Hamilton kept with what he had. All sorts of things can happen in a game of flesh and blood. But what we know today is that the game went to Dan. Now, this is the semifinals. These are only a few of the games in the series of 5 for each of these pairs of teams. This is just the one we've seen between Indy Arsenal and the Runaways. We've got more games tomorrow for Saturday. We're going to have another set of exciting games. And after that, we'll be able to let you know which of these 2 teams is going to end up playing in the final next week.
That's right. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, night 2 of the semifinals matchups here, live streamed on FTC. The main event tomorrow night is going to be Kelvin Law versus Pudding Tam. And the co-main event is going to be Brody Spurlock versus Travis McDaniels. There'll be 2 other matches with that, a 4-match card on Saturday night. So 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. Sit down, stick around, watch some Flesh and Blood here on the Fab Team Cup channel. Of course, this competition is brought to you by Fab Foundry. Go to fabfoundry.co to get your singles for Flesh and Blood. Look, they're getting expensive. Now's the time. You gotta buy them now before they spike up. And we just saw Exude Confidence is about to get bought out by all the 5 players around the world. So use your code TEAMCUP10 to save 10% on your signals that you're going to buy before the buyout groups hit those as well. And I think that is going to kind of round it up here tonight. Andy, you got any closing thoughts here after an exciting night? 3 awesome matches here.
Yeah, I think this was a very exciting night. We saw 3 matches with 6 heroes. All of these heroes very viable in the upcoming Pro Quests. All of these players, very good players. So, maybe this is the sort of match that you're going to be seeing in a week when you're busy playing in your Pro Quest, and you'll be thinking, oh, I'm glad I watched, Dan play Michael, so I know how to handle that better. I'm glad I watched, Jack and Ho-Chin play because I got that tech I need for the Briar, the Rhinar, or now I really know how to play as Dorinthia into Dromai. These competitive players playing and us being able to show them, it really helps out, I think, a lot of people who are interested in getting exposed to this sort of content without having to wait for the official Flesh and Blood live tournaments where we don't get to have as frequent weekly coverage. In general, I think we got some good games tonight. We're going to have more good games tomorrow, and I'm really looking forward, though, to seeing which teams we end up seeing in the finals.
Absolutely, and I think that is going to do it for us tonight. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Friday Night Fights here on the FTC channel. Thanks for the chat for sticking around for all of this. Thank you, Andy, for helping me call all the action, and thank you to Adam Philipchuk in the production truck in my ear the whole night. He's the one that makes the machine here run. I am running on energy drink fumes. You can tell because my speech is starting to fade here. So it is time to eat some food and call it a day. And that's gonna do it. That's gonna do it for us. We're gonna wrap it up right now. If you can find Andy on his backpack reviews, where can we find you to do? Where can we find you?
On Twitter, I'm at Frillior, as it should say on the screen. If you like backpacks, it's youtube.com/@AndyModellBackpacks. If you want my TCG content, it's youtube.com/@AndyModellTCG. Pretty easy.
And I am Patrick Shaw from The Combat Chain. You can find us on YouTube at The Combat Chain. You can find our podcast, The Combat Chain, wherever you stream your audio podcast. You can find us on Twitter at The Combat Chain. You can find me. You can find me at Pat Smashgood. You can find Adam at Fomtoolery TCG. And you can find our new podcast about Marvel Snap at After Turn 6, a Combat Chain production, podcasts and content all over the place. We're just making it happen, wheeling and dealing. You can find the Marvel Snap content also on the Combat Chain. And I'm here. You can't stop me. So I'm just going to plug it all. Thanks for tuning in. See you all tomorrow night. Peace.